I know that I've spoken for a long time, but let me run through some of the questions that you have asked me in advance, but I have not yet fully answered. So I'll give you a very critical and important question. Somebody here said, how do we know that global warming is because of people? Can it not be just natural variation? And the answer is, all these scientists have tried to separate what we call the natural variation from the additional variation as a result of people's actions. And the global consensus is that yes, what we see happening now is especially because people are burning fossil fuels, coal, gas, petroleum. There are many, many different lines of inquiry why scientists can say this, including take samples from ice, which can be analyzed, and it shows us what was in the atmosphere, which gases were in the atmosphere hundreds of thousands of years ago. They can make geological observations, and they can tell you about life, but also about climate millions of years ago. And so, when we talk about climate change in the past decades, as a result of what the human beings have done in the past century or century and a half, it is comparable only to the most extreme states of the Earth in the millions and millions of years that we can analyze. So in other words, what human beings are doing is happening at a speed, historically, at a geological speed that is completely unprecedented. I've also been asked a question about how much warming is likely this century. Now, the Vietnamese government have published last year an official report that makes predictions. And in that official report, the government says that on average, by 2100, Vietnam is expected to be 2.3 degrees hotter. But that is just according to one of the scenarios that I showed you. The Vietnamese government can't know what the rest of the world will do. So it will have to adjust its own predictions as emissions of greenhouse gases start to change. And every government in the world will do that. So this is very difficult to say. However, simply by another equally realistic scenario, the temperature rise in, for example, the north-central coast region, Thanh Hoa and Nghệ An and so on, may be as much as 3.5 or 4 degrees Celsius. And that is just averages. I think I've told you now several times, dangerous climate change is not about averages. It's about extremes. It's about the rainfall in northern Vietnam in 31st of October 2008. And it's about heat waves. This spring is comparatively cool. The prediction is the summer will be comparatively hot because of El Niño. But we cannot predict the hottest days of the year. We can only say that a heat wave, a few extremely hot days, are highly likely. So that is all I can say. Make sure you have ice in your fridge because some very, very hot days are expected this year. There were questions about what are the primary things that Vietnam should do to adapt to climate change. And of course, dike building is the first thing the Vietnamese think about, and MAD and other ministries and local provinces and so on have started to do that. I didn't mention this, but I come from the Netherlands. Maybe the MC mentioned it. But it means that I was born below average sea level. My mother's bed was below average sea level when she delivered me. So I should introduce myself as a fish. I was born as a fish. So is that because of dikes? Is the Netherlands dry because of dikes? Evidently not only dikes. Pumps is the second answer to the question why the Netherlands is dry. So for Vietnam to build dikes may cause drainage problems. If Vietnam builds dikes and dams and pumps and sluices and so on and so forth, yes, then it can stay safe. But it will be incredibly expensive. Even Vietnam will not be able to afford it without some major international assistance. I think I stop here. Maybe the MC can tell me when we continue, whether we continue immediately or whatever. And hopefully you will have many more questions.
I have two questions. First, many people say that the Copenhagen Accord is a success. However, some people say that it is a failure. So I would like to know your personal view about this matter. And the second question, you said that Vietnam should implement the green technology. However, it takes United States and the rich country very long time to apply the green technology. So how come a poor country like Vietnam can apply the green technology with a very limited financial resources? Thank you.
I will answer these questions. On Copenhagen, my personal opinion is that it was not a total failure, but it was a disappointment. It means the expectations were far too high. They were unrealistically high. I also think that this year, 2010, we will not achieve what was hoped or expected from Copenhagen. And there are already some senior observers, including the UNFCCC Secretariat head, are saying the same thing. Now, I don't think it was a complete failure because there were some agreements and money has been committed. Now, I can give you many critical comments on the money that is being committed, including that it is not enough, including the fact that it is totally unclear how it will be channeled. Also, it is unclear whether it is, in fact, new money. New money means, is it money that they stop giving to poverty reduction and start giving to climate change? That's not the idea. It should be new money, but it's unclear whether it's new money. But the good news is, at least there is some commitment to money. Another positive agreement or sign is that it is very firmly agreed in Copenhagen, and again in Copenhagen I should say, and also before, that science should drive this. Now, science is maybe not always objective, but science is incredibly powerful. Good science from countries like Vietnam or China or all kinds of developing countries, in addition to the science from the developed world, is such a convincing argument. Anybody who says climate change is not true is doing that without science. Any scientist cannot believe that. And so that is such a powerful argument that at some point in the future, maybe not this year, but at some point in the future, science must win over politics. That has to be the case. Otherwise, the world has gone completely mad, and I don't believe the world will go mad. On your second question, yes, of course, green technology has to come from the rich world to the poor world. Technology transfer is a very hot topic in the international negotiations. If the world, in the rich world, does not make much progress, why would the poor world do it? All of that is true. It is, however, in Vietnam's interest to import modern technology. Vietnam did not invent the computer. It simply started using it and replicating it. You don't need to invent a computer when it already exists. And similarly with all these other technologies, they exist, so just import them. Once you understand them fully, you start making new technologies yourself. Now, there are many, many possibilities for immediate benefits to Vietnam. Benefits in terms of reduced cost, better air or better environment, and also better profit, meaning better earnings for companies. So Vietnam should not change its technology base to green with additional cost. No need. It should do it with its own capacities and needs because there are other benefits. Now, maybe I give you one example. We're in the Central Highlands. It's a small or medium-sized factory where they process cassava into flour, into white powder. And they have a huge reservoir of stinking water. It is just terribly stinking water. And the people working there, 100 people working there, cannot bear the smell. The neighbors, the farmers, they cannot bear the smell. And so they covered it with a large piece of polyethylene. And underneath, gas was produced, methane gas. And the pipe from the methane gas reservoir went into the factory in order to heat up the wet cassava and make it into powder. So what was happening there? No more smell, gas that replaced coal, so the factory didn't use coal anymore, lower cost, no dust, happy workers, happy neighbors, so all kinds of advantages. Now, is it good for climate change? Yes, very good for climate change, but forget about climate change. What is important is that it is good for workers, for the factory owner, for the farmers. And so there are many examples like this, and this is where Vietnam needs to invest as a country, but also the private sector.